Hi guys. So today we are going to start to learn about a place that I have a special connection to. And so I don't remember if you guys remember or if you watched my About Me video, but I spent a good portion of my childhood in Saudi Arabia. And when I went to college, I studied Middle Eastern studies. And so I really focused on the development of Islam and the development of cultures in the Arabian Peninsula and also cultures that are centered around Islam. And so hopefully this video works for us in Blend whenever you guys watch this. And so this video a lot of times is going to be criticized for being racist and stereotypical. And although that some of that is true, the point of me showing you guys this video is to demonstrate the skill and the occupation or the job of being a merchant. That was very common among Arabs at this time. And so the peninsula of Arabia is really, it's not really suitable for farming. It is mostly desert. And so if you take a look at this image here, this whole like 3/4 of the peninsula is all just sand, really like oceans of sand. And so when I was a kid, I lived in a little town up here called Yambu. And so, like I said, most of this is sand. But Yambu, and there's other cities, Medina, Mecca, and Jeddah, they are located along this natural trade route that goes along this Red Sea. And so if you take a look at the map, you can see that the Arabian Peninsula is actually strategically located in the middle of all of these empires. So here is where the Byzantine Empire, remember Eastern Rome, so this is the Byzantine Empire. Over here, this is where the Persian Empire was located, and at this time it's called the Sassanid Empire. So there's trade routes that go all the way to China. India is over here, so the Arabian Peninsula can access India over a sea trade route. The Arabs also have access to Egypt, which has lots of resources like ivory and gold. And so the Arabians are actually in a prime location to facilitate trade. And so in the next coming lessons, we'll learn about how important trade is to creating power within an empire or within a group or civilization. And so this image here is just an image of these Arab camel caravans that would actually carry goods across this very harsh terrain and this very arid desert. And so when I was a kid, we lived in a compound, but it really didn't look that much different than this. So I couldn't see, like, there were mountains and stuff. I couldn't really always see the mountains, but I could always see the sand and I could always see the sand dunes. And so there were many days that I would look out my window and what I would see was just a few camels kind of in the desert. And when we would drive through the desert, we would see camel caravans and we would see Bedouins. And so I'll talk about Bedouins in just a second. And so it's something seems very simple, actually is one of the main catalysts for facilitating this growth and this expansion of Islamic culture and this rise in power of the Arabs. And so something as simple as the camel saddle is going to help the Arabs to gain in their wealth and help them to gain power. And later, once they convert to Islam, it is also going to facilitate the spread of Islam. And so that we'll learn in the next few lessons that trade is a major catalyst. So that means something that pushes something forward in the expansion of Islam. And so before Islam, and even to this day, a primary characteristic of culture in the Arabian Peninsula is this Bedouin culture. And so Bedouin in Arabic, it means like nomads. And so to this day, there are still people in the desert who live, they travel, they go from place to place looking for water, and they have their camel herds and their goat herds. And so then they like set up camp And there were a couple times whenever we took like just kind of like exploration road trips through the desert, and we found, I don't know, or these people found us. And so they invite you to their tent and they ask you to share their tea and they share anything they have with you. And so in Arabia, before Islam, and even to this day too, it's mainly kind of because of the culture and the environment there. The culture, the society was very patriarchal, and so patriarchal. Remember, that means dominated by men. And so, like, all your power is passed down through your father's line. And so they had very, very close relationships. There wasn't a lot of interaction with others. And so it wasn't uncommon for cousins to marry each other. Women at this time, they often needed a lot of protection because there were a lot of raiding and competing different tribal groups, all trying to fight for a monopoly or power over that trade route along the Red Sea. Orphans, they were often looked down upon, like they didn't want to take care of another kid. And so that's something that actually changes with Islam. Sheikh is a term for a tribal leader. And so those tribes are often going to fight blood for blood. And so here's some more images of Bedouin culture. And so I'm going to skip through these really quickly. Again. And so along that trade route, way back in Arabia, and so along that Arabian Peninsula, along the Red Sea, there's going to be this city called Mecca. And if you think about Buc-ee's in Texas, right? So Buc-ee's is like the pit stop that everybody wants to stop at whenever they are going on a road trip through Texas, right? And so Mecca at this time is like Buc-ee's. And so it's kind of in a center location of that trade route through the desert. And so it naturally becomes this center for trade. And so the people who live around Mecca, they also find another way to make money besides just facilitating and helping people trade and giving people like a rest stop. So what they do is there's this it's just a big black box, really. And so it's called the Kaaba. And so they say to all these people who are traveling through from all over the place, they say, come on, come put your statues to your gods here. And so all these different places put their statues to these gods or these idols or these polytheistic gods. And so what the people of Mecca do is they charge people to come in and worship these gods. So one, they're making money from people stopping and spending the night and taking a rest and buying food and trading. And two, they're also making money off of people who are coming as a pilgrimage to come and worship the various gods. Any god that you kind of wanted to worship, they're like, yeah, put it in there. And so this is going to be some of the beginnings and origins of Islam.